Welcome to My Life. I'm John Ochins, and today we're going to talk with Martha Giles at the Hope Senior Apartments.
This program is sponsored by Burdick Street Landscape and Equipment, 43 Burdick Street, Oxford, Michigan. We are your friendly hometown lawn equipment company. Locally owned and operated, we competitively sell most major brands and service them all.
Okay, we're still at the Hope Senior Living Center here in Oxford on Drainer Road, and our next guest is Martha Giles. Looks like Gilds, but pronounced like Giles, right?
Right.
Help me remember that,
Yeah.
everybody. Okay, now Martha, give me a little idea of your history. Where were you born?
In Pontiac.
Whereabouts in Pontiac?
Was Mount Clemens at one time. Now it's University Drive.
University Drive. Did your dad work for General Motors?
Yes.
Or?
He worked for General Motors, and he also had Lee Sales and Service, gas station on Mount Clemens, now is University Drive. Then he opened a lawnmower shop, and that's where we were.
What was the name of the lawnmower shop? Do you remember?
Lee Sales and Service.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, does your family go back a long ways in Pontiac?
No, my father and mother moved here from Tennessee.
From Tennessee.
From Tennessee. And
Whereabouts in Tennessee?
Friendsville is the name of the
Is that
town.
near Nashville?
I'm not too sure about that.
You might have some connections around this place. A lot of people here have histories in Tennessee.
Yes, Tennessee's where they moved up here to work for the automotive company. And then he bought a grocery store. That's what his father did.
Really?
He bought grocery stores, and that I was actually born in an apartment in the back of a grocery store.
Now, what was your maiden name?
Lee.
Lee. And did you ever try and trace your family back to see when they first came to this country?
No, but Southern people are storytellers, so there was a lot of history. My mother's grandfather was a doctor, and he run a hotel. That's kind of, and you'd go down to the railroad on a buggy and get in and get out, and that's how they made their living.
So you don't know exactly when they came to this country, but
No.
certainly most of the 1800s, it
Yes,
sounds like
yes,
your family was over
because my
here.
mother was born in 1898. So see, that's a long time ago.
Right, well, the older you get, it doesn't seem
That-
like that long
Yes,
ago,
that is true, yeah.
but all a matter of perspective, I guess. Okay, so you were born in Pontiac.
Yes.
Where did you go to school in Pontiac?
I went to Emerson Grade School, that's in Perry Park there. And then I went to Eastern Junior High. And then I went to Pontiac Central.
Pontiac Central.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
What year did you graduate?
51,
51. Did you have a lot of brothers and sisters?
yes. I'm the youngest of 8.
The youngest of 8.
Yes.
So you were well taken care of.
Yes, I
You
was.
were well protected.
Yes.
Tell me, what was the combination of boys and girls in that?
My mother had 5 boys. She lost one, so there was 4 boys. Then 2 cousins come to live with us when they were 5 and 7. She raised them. And then I had 2 older sisters, then all those boys, and then I was Daddy's little girl.
Daddy's little girl.
After all those boys.
Okay, now he worked for General Motors, did you say?
Yes, he did.
Which plant?
It was over on Baldwin at the time. That's all I know, that it
Okay.
was on Baldwin.
All right. Obviously, your mother probably didn't get a chance to work outside of the home. She was too busy raising
No,
kids.
but when they had a grocery store, she ran the store.
Where was the grocery store at?
Right across from the house we ended up living in, right on University Drive now. It's still there.
Uh-huh.
And they used to have an apartment in the back, and that's where they lived. But then this house that across the street, big 2-story house, sat empty for years. So some guy come in and asked my dad if he'd like to rent it. So he did. A few years later, a wrecking crew come in. And the guy that rented it to my dad didn't even own it.
Well, that wasn't good.
Yeah, but then Dad bought the house from the owner, and that's where I was raised.
Okay. What memories do you have of living in Pontiac down there, and what did you do for fun?
Roller skate out on Can't think of the street.
But you lived in Pontiac till
Lived
you
in-
graduated from high school.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, did you ever work any odd jobs in stores or anything? Did you work in the family market? while you-
No, because they had sold that by the time I was old enough. But my older sisters worked in the store, but I didn't. My first job was at St. Joe's Mercy Hospital as a nurse's aide.
And how long did you work there?
A couple of years.
Was that right after high school?
Yes, just short. My mother got me in there. I was 17 when I started working there. Yeah.
Was it shortly after that that you met your husband?
Yes, I met him in church, Emmanuel Baptist Church on Telegraph.
Uh-huh.
And we married, and we had 2 children.
What year did you get married?
Now you're asking. I have to think. I don't know. I was 18. So you'll have to do the figures.
No, that's
I was
okay.
born in 32, so, 51, 52. I was graduating from high school and we got married.
Okay. Did your husband? We're talking about a time in our history. It was right around the Korean War. Did your husband have to go into the service?
No, he
or-
wasn't ever in the service.
Okay.
But we didn't stay together. And then I remarried again, and that's where I had these pile of kids,
So you had 2 children from your first husband.
Right.
And how many from your?
Let's see. 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6. Yeah.
6 children from your second, so 8 kids altogether.
Yeah, right. And I had a stepdaughter I raised, so
Tell us a little bit about the period of time between marriages there. How old were you when you got divorced?
23.
Okay. And how long was it before you remarried?
About 4 years.
4 years.
Uh-huh.
So you were raising 2 little kids during that
And lived
period
with
of
my
time.
parents during that time.
You did. Okay.
And I worked at the infirmary on Telegraph Road, right where the courthouse is.
Uh-huh.
Now it's something else. There's a little nursing home. But then it was a Oakland County Medical Care
Right.
Facility.
Mhm.
So I worked there 5 years.
Clinton Valley was over there too.
Yes, that was over by the mall, but this was up further.
So tell me, okay, how did you meet your second husband?
We used to go, all the ladies that worked, all the young women, we got off work at 11:30 at night. Every Tuesday night we went to Dell's Inn. I don't know if you know where that is.
Tell me where it was.
Elizabeth Lake and M59 up a block, and there was on the corner, and
Right around Kennedy's Irish Pub.
yeah,
Ah,
and it was Tuesday night was jam session night, and that's where I met him.
oh, well, what on earth were you going to jam session night for? Did you play an instrument or play in a band?
No, I
or-
danced.
You danced? Okay, so jam session, what kind of music were they playing?
It was a black orchestra, a band, and they were just dynamite.
Did they play rock and roll or jazz or?
Everything.
Ah,
And all your girlfriends and all the boys in the neighborhood, everybody went there. And since I've lived here, one day we was down there talking, and one of the men said, "Where'd you go dancing, Martha?" And I said, "Dell's Inn." He laughed. He said, "Me too."
so you met your husband at Dell's Inn.
Right.
So he liked music too.
He did, and he was a good dancer.
Really?
And that kind of helped it along.
That helped it, that roped you in right there.
Yes, it did.
Okay, now what did he do for a living?
He worked for Ford Motor Company. He worked in the tractor division in Deerfield.
Ah, okay. Deerfield.
No, not Deerfield.
Dearborn.
Dearborn.
Okay, off of Telegraph Road down there, I think. I'm not sure.
If you go Woodward down to Birmingham, you turn
Yeah.
on 15 Mile Road.
Okay, we're going to take a little break, but we'll be right back. Don't
Okay.
go away. We're here with Martha Giles at the Hope Senior Center in Oxford. Okay, Martha, well, you got to the point where you met your second husband
Right.
at Dell's,
Yes.
dancing.
Dancing.
Okay, very good. Now, so how long did you guys go together before you got married?
About 3 years, I think.
3 years.
Yeah.
And he had a previous relationship as well, right?
Previous marriage, yeah.
Marriage. And he had a daughter,
Yeah.
is that correct? And so how old was she when you got married?
Well, when I met him, she was 7. So she was about 11 when we got married, and she come to live with us.
Ah, okay. So you ended up with his 11-year-old and 2 kids of yours.
Right.
And then you had some more.
Then I just kept having them.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, do most of the kids live around here?
I have a son that lives in Kansas and a daughter that lives down there. And the rest of them kind of live around here.
So they're close enough to come and visit you from time
All
to
the
time,
time.
except for the one in Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, very good. So did your husband continue to work for Ford Motor Company through the rest of his career?
Yes, and then he retired when he was 55, I think. Yeah.
And where were you folks living then?
We sold our house on Scott Lake, and he wanted to move in the country and have some land, so we moved to 9 miles north of Lapeer.
You really went out to the country.
Yes.
But let's back up a little. Let's talk about Scott Lake.
Okay,
Now, life on a lake
that was nice.
isn't bad.
No, we had a pontoon boat, so the kids could all come home and get on the pontoon boat and go out in the lake.
And how many years did you live on Scott Lake?
I don't know, 10, 12 years, something like that.
Okay. Where did your kids all go to school?
Mott,
In Waterford.
yeah,
So they graduated from school
in Mott, yeah,
in Waterford.
yeah.
Okay. Now, tell me a little more about your second husband. Is he still with us?
No, he passed away after we moved north, and he retired. And within 3 months, we found out he had cancer.
Oh,
And just in a few years, he passed away. He was 58 when he died, and I was 51 when I lost him.
that's too bad.
So here I am, stuck way up north.
Yeah, and tell me where that home was again?
It's Fairview. It's a little town up there. And it's 9 miles right up Lapeer Road. And you turn on Castle Road, and we got 10 acres and a house that was only 3 years old and a barn, and he was in heaven. Went right out and bought him a big tractor. And
You mean he actually did some farming?
well, not farming, because we had 7 acres front yard.
Oh,
Lawnmower.
so
And
he did some mowing is what he
was
did.
just, yes. Then he made a path through the woods so we could take walks through the woods. And he was a happy camper those last years.
Well, his
anyway.
last years he
Yeah.
was happy, and it sounds like you were too.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so here you were with all this acreage and all this lawn to mow, and you lost your husband. So what happened then?
Well, I hired the guy next door. I sold him my tractor at a really good price. And in through that, he did my 7-acre front yard and the backyard. And I would come on the weekends down here and meet with my girlfriends and my kids and,
I see.
you know.
When did you finally sell that place, or?
Yes, put it on the market in the summer, the next summer. And sold it to a guy, and then he defunct on his payments, so I had to go to court and get him out. And
okay.
then sell it again, and move back down here where my kids were all living, you know.
Okay. Let's go back to when you were a child living in Pontiac. How would you say you were raised by your parents compared with the way that parents raise kids today?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't remember being so preoccupied with the clothes that you wear and the have-me stuff. I don't remember any of that. It was just a pleasant atmosphere, always a house full of people. Mom and Dad, Mom home all the time. My mother was a really tiny little lady, and she just cooked and cleaned and washed and ironed. That went on 7 days a week.
Well, you were busy people. You
Yes.
had to be with all
All
those
those-
kids and
yeah.
with the market and your dad working in the plant.
Yep.
So, what did you do for fun?
Went roller skating. That I told you that. That's about all we did as far as going away from the house. Is the whole neighborhood would meet on the corner of our street, and we would walk, big boys, little boys, girls, and everything, and that was about it. My mother played the piano, so all my married brothers and sisters come home on Saturday night, and Mother played the piano, and we all sang. And then we were Christians, so we were active in the church. And Mother could play the organ. And my sister ended up, my oldest sister, she married a young man, and they lost a little boy. And through that, they went into the Bible to try to find out what heaven was all about. And through that, they could become born again. And then he went off to school to become a pastor.
Really?
And then they bought property over on Airport Road, and they built a church. And then across the street, they built them a house, and that church is still there, and I still go to church there.
What's the name of that church?
Faith Baptist Church.
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. How has a woman's role changed over the span of your lifetime?
Oh, I think women today have it harder because they're all expected to have a good income besides their husband because of their way of life, I guess. And in my day, we stayed home, and in my mother's days, we stayed home, and we were wives, and we were mamas, and we took care of our families, which was a pleasant thing. Not so much pressure as the women today have it. They're expected to work all day, come home and take care of the family and the house, and go back to work the next day.
Although you had tough times in your life you had to deal with too when you had
Well,
to get out.
Yeah, you know,
You did what you had to do.
you do what you have to do.
Yeah. How has technology changed things?
Oh, you know, my mother and I had this discussion, and I told her in her lifetime, the automobile was the biggest invention, and her dad come home one day, and he said, they have got a new invention up in Michigan. And they said, well, what is it? And he said, it's called an automobile.
Close.
And Mother really loved telling that story because that was pretty funny. But I said, the radio and the TV, all that was invented in her lifetime.
Yes.
But in my lifetime, it's the computer age. Everything's computers. Like you ask somebody what's going on with their family that lives in Florida, and they can tell you all about it because it comes on their computer. They got Facebook. Everybody puts all their business on there. And
Yeah, it has its good points and its bad points,
I
doesn't it?
guess because everybody knows your business if you put it out there.
So are you on the computer?
No,
All right, so you don't text at the dinner table then, right?
I don't any of that.
Then I wouldn't have to shake my finger at you. Okay, very good. How has food changed during your lifetime?
Oh, everything comes in a box.
Not as homemade as it used to be.
Everything was homemade back in the day.
Yeah, let's talk more about that after we take a quick break.
Okay, that'd
we'll
be
right
great.
back.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Terry Stiles.
Hi everybody, I'm Bill Service, and I'm the producer of Our Community Access. Terry and I started our show 8 years ago to bring our community into your living rooms.
Our Community Access is a show born from the rich diversity of our community, and we want to brag about it and the people creating that diversity.
Over the year, we've been from fox hunts to beekeeping and right in your own backyard.
We welcome new businesses, chamber fashion, senior hobbies, class reunions, and much, much more.
We've covered all our celebrations from Leonard Strawberry Festival to our premier Lone Ranger Parade.
But there's still more avenues that we plan on going on.
So watch our Community Access at 9:30 and 5:30 every day, and you have a great, great week.
Back with Martha Giles, and we were talking about one of our favorite subjects, food. Martha, tell us, what's your favorite dish?
Oh my goodness. I like Mexican food.
Do you?
Yes. I don't eat it often because it's got a lot of calories.
Oh, let's not talk about
Yeah,
that.
right, it's not
We
talk-
don't talk about calories in these interviews.
Okay.
Did you go to Tenuta's back in Pontiac when
Yes,
you lived there?
of course.
Was that where you were introduced to the Mexican food?
Might have been.
That's one of my favorite places.
And there was the Spaghetti House right on Huron Street there.
You got me now.
I'm thinking Telegraph, Huron Street. If you went west on Huron, just about a block or so past Telegraph, that's where everybody, after they got out of Dell's Inn, everybody went to the Spaghetti,
Spaghetti
House. Yes.
Okay, tell me, do you get a chance to cook much out here at the Hope Senior?
I cook not hard at all
Really?
because I live alone, and it just doesn't sound too interesting. And my daughter calls me almost every night to come to supper, but I go maybe twice a week. And
But she lives close enough where
yes.
you could do that.
oh, she does it all the time.
That's nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. All right, so Mexican food is your favorite kind of food. Let's talk about something different. Think about your life, and if you could relive it, would you do anything differently?
Yes.
What would you do?
First off, I wouldn't get married young. And my father offered to send me to nursing school out to St. Joe's. They had there, you could go to college there. And,
Yes.
And I didn't want to. I wanted to go out and go dancing and all that. And if I'd, because I worked for years in nursing, so I wished I had got a degree.
I understand.
So I talked one of my granddaughters in fulfilling that dream for me, and she's an RN.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
Does she work around here?
No, she lives in Lansing, and she runs the hospice where they send people out to, nursing people out to people's homes. And she's the head gal where they bring all the reports to her, and she's just a good girl.
Makes you feel good that
Yes.
your kids are doing well like that, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Have you traveled to any foreign countries?
Yes.
Where have you gone?
I went to Italy. We went with the church.
Uh-huh.
And it was a whole group of us, and we went to where Paul, what it was called was Paul's Journey. And so we went to all the places that Paul in the Bible talks about were Paul, and it was just fascinating to see a different way of life. And in the hotel, the streets are real narrow in some of those cities, and they have the big tour buses come through, and you could reach right out and touch it if you're on the sidewalk. And people that are in hotels, they come down at supper time, and there's tables all over, like on the lawn, and that's where the food is brought out, and they eat outdoors. That was interesting.
So you followed the journeys of St. Paul, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
That-
wherever he wrote his letters from,
Yes.
that's where you
and
went.
we went to a place where now there is a shrine there, but at the time it was just a mountain. And they have a place in the floor, and they said this is where Paul was imprisoned. And when he was in prison, he wrote certain books of the Bible. But they would come.
I think I read one of them. Didn't he say something like, "Don't stay here, the food's not very good"?
But it was interesting, and you think about it, and they said that they would open the lid on the prison dungeon, and they would lower food down, and that's the only time he had light. And he had to quick write everything down that he had been thinking about. And they would take out his waste and bring in food, and they did that 3 times a day. And that's when he had to do his writing, was while they had the lid off. I thought that was just different, and never was. That wasn't in any Bible.
Let me ask you this. Obviously, you were outside of the country for a little while when you went on
Yeah,
that trip.
we were about 14 days, I think, though.
Did it give you a different perspective on our country?
Oh, yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
There's no place in the world that I can think of that I'd rather live than the United States. And I got that opinion during World War II, and my brothers were in the military. And all the news you'd get on the radio about what was going on. We didn't have TV then. We just had radio. And we'd listen to the president talk, and my dad would cry because his boys were over in Germany and all that. And so I can remember I was 12, and I can remember praying and telling God how much I thanked him for letting me live in the United States.
Did you lose any siblings during the Second World War?
No,
Lucky.
we were very fortunate.
Yeah.
We had neighbor boys that were killed in the service, and which would be hard on everybody in the community because we had those things you hung in the window that had little red crosses on them for how many boys you had in the military.
Right.
And some families had to take those down. So that was,
Heartbreaking.
but it made you love your country.
Right.
Yeah.
Were any of your children in the military?
No, no,
So you didn't have to go through that.
no.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay, what was the first movie you ever saw?
Something with Shirley Temple. That's not.
And she just passed away
I s-
recently. Did you read that?
I did read that, and
Yeah.
it brought back a lot of happy memories when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And my brothers would take me, and I was allowed to tail along with all the boys. And but they wanted to go to the state, which was in Pontiac, right on the main drag, and that's where all the cowboy movies were. And I was very unhappy. I wanted to go across the street to the Oakland or to the Strand Theater, and that's where I would watch Shirley Temple and Judy Garland and all that stuff, you know.
Did you have a favorite movie? Or do you have a favorite movie?
I don't think I can remember a favorite movie. My daughter still today, well, maybe once every 4 or 5 months she'll call me and say, really good movie, do you want to go to the movies? And I always say, no. And she said, well, how about if I pick you up about 2 o'clock? And we go to the movies. But I never was a big movie fan. Yeah. I think when television come in, that was, you know, took place of having to go into the movies.
I probably should have asked you this earlier. What was your favorite song? Or what is your favorite song? Do you have one?
I like not necessarily a song, but I love country western music.
Really?
Yes, because every song tells a story.
That's true.
And my granddaughter just bought a house right here in Oxford, just over a few blocks. And I was on the back porch and I was painting her back steps. And my girls were in the front painting steps and stuff. And I heard all this laughter and I thought, what's so funny? And they're singing the song, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. And I look up and here there's 2 reindeer coming across the lawn. And my girls are watching it. And so when I was listening to them, I thought, what are they doing? So I kind of stepped back, and here comes these deers across. So that's one of my
Real
favorites.
live
Real
deer?
live, 2 of them.
No kidding.
They come out of the cemetery down there on Seymour Lake Road.
Ah,
They kind of wind up.
okay.
We're all done.
Well, we're getting the signal that we've got to wrap it up. I do
Okay.
want to ask you one more question anyway. If you had to give a piece of advice to kids today, what would it be?
There's so much. Stay away from drugs. If there's anything that has ruined our country, and still is to this day, is drugs. Get a good education because you got to live on that the rest of your life. So I would think keep your kids, I think, in church and emphasize education in your home.
Martha Giles.
Yes.
I remembered how to say your name.
You did. You're good at that.
Okay. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
This program is sponsored by Burdick Street Landscape and Equipment, 43 Burdick Street, Oxford, Michigan. We are your friendly hometown lawn equipment company. Locally owned and operated, we competitively sell most major brands and service them all.
We've been talking with Martha Giles at the Hope Senior Apartments in Oxford, Michigan. Thanks for joining us on My Life. You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the village of Leonard.